Welcome to the Resiliency of the Human Spirit podcast, where we share all about human triumphs for the collective's healing and empowerment. I am your host, Priscilla Hanley. My guest today is Mary Riposo. Mary was healed from a number of mystery illnesses that didn't respond to Western medicine through the practice of Reiki. After her life-changing experience, Mary became a Reiki Master and now teaches others how to heal their lives with Reiki. Mary is the owner of Infinite Light Center. Without further ado, I'm going to bring Mary on right now. Hi, Mary.
Hey, Priscilla, thanks for having me.
Thank you
Great to
for
be here.
taking the time to join us here today. So, Mary, you have a really interesting journey, because you were ill with mystery illnesses, and right now you're an empowered business owner and a Reiki master. So I would really love for you to share your story on how everything started for you and how Reiki played such a major role in your life and in your healing.
Oh my gosh, sure. Well, it's kind of a long, winding path, but I love how you are always talking about resiliency because really, when I look back at my kind of the arc of my life, I find a lot of resiliency. I had a lot of early loss and trauma in my life. My father was killed in an auto accident when I was 10 months old. So it really kind of created this trajectory of trauma and illness for me and mental health issues and addiction and poverty in my family and all kinds of things starting at a very young age. So when I was, you know, a year old, I started to have bouts of pneumonia. I was really sick when I was very young for a long, long time. And even when I was in elementary school, I had a lot of days absent because of being ill. And, back then, I'm kind of old, but back then they really didn't say, oh, you can't graduate because you have had a whole bunch of days off. But I still was able to keep up with the work and all of that kind of thing. And I was this really sensitive, highly sensitive kid from day one. Um, and so as I was lying in bed, as I was recovering from illness and things like that, I really developed this, I would call it like a rich inner life. And I was, because my father had passed away, my mother was working a lot. And my grandmother really raised me. She was there. And she was this really cool person who was, she was Christian and she was very connected to the saints. She was very metaphysical in a lot of ways. I don't know if she would really say that, but she really had like these personal relationships with different saints. And so I was really influenced by that too. And I knew from early on there was this other world, this unseen world. I was very intuitive as a child. I could really see energy as well. And, I just had this sense of safety and feeling like everything was okay when I was around her. Although there were so many things in my life that were not safe and out of control and things like that. She passed away when I was just before I turned 12. And so that was another piece of trauma. When I look back, and I don't know if you've ever heard of the ACEs scale, but the ACEs scale is Adverse Childhood Experiences scale. It's a scale of trauma in childhood, and it's something that predicts future problems like health problems, social problems, emotional problems. And it's a scale from 1 to 10. Even if you have 1 to 3, you have significant risk. My score was 7. And that's a really, really high risk for all of those things. Despite that, I haven't had a lot of issues. As I'm functional as an adult, I'm successful and things like that. So when I really think about it as like there has to be some level of resiliency, within my life. And I think that, as I suffered these losses and traumas, you either can kind of go under with those things, or you can come through it with this sense of presence. Like, I knew even from a young age that nothing is ever guaranteed, like that you need to be present in the moment and be grateful about what you have and, what's happening right in front of you, and be in it, really be embodied in it in order to, because that's all you have. You don't have the past, and the future is not guaranteed. I learned that from really, really young. And so I think I just have gone through life like that, really knowing that, the present is the only thing that we have, and that we should really embrace it. But, I did still suffer from, medical stuff. I suffered from a lot of respiratory stuff. I had that weakness from early on, having pneumonia and things like that. And as I was going through life, I graduated from high school a year early, and I went to college in my when I would have normally been a senior in high school. I walked to college from my home. I went on complete scholarship and financial aid, and I just walked back and forth because I knew there was something in me that was like, I have to get out of this situation. I have to like rise from this poverty situation. I have to make something of myself. So I was like really driven even as a kid. And so I majored in psychology. I got my master's degree. I got my PhD. So I just kind of went the whole distance, and I became a psychotherapist. And, at the time, I was just really interested in psychology and everything. But, when I look back on, maybe why would someone do that? I think I was trying to make sense of all of the things that happened to me, and all of the stress and trauma that was kind of in my life, and understanding the people around me, like why their behaviors were such as they were and things like that. So I worked for a long time in psychotherapy. And it's right at that time that I found Reiki, because I was in my workplace. I was working outpatient mental health, seeing clients. And my work building was being renovated. And so they were doing all kinds of construction, but they were still having us work in the middle of it. And so, you're hearing like loud noises, but you're also being exposed to fumes and particles and everything like that. And again, my respiratory wasn't good to start with. And I remember going in day after day and not feeling good, but still I was dedicated to my clients. I never took a day off. I just consistently went in. And at some point, it just was too much for me. And so I could no longer work. I had, you know, pneumonia that just wouldn't quit. I had developed these rashes, serious fatigue. I couldn't get out of bed. Like I had vertigo. I had all kinds of like symptoms that, I went to my doctor. They did a whole bunch of tests. They couldn't figure things out. I went for allergy injections, which made me so much worse. Any medications that I took made me worse. And I finally was like, I just need to kind of stop all of this because I don't think it's helping. And so I was out of work at that point for more than a month. And I remember like at my worst, it was in October and it was really cold out. It was one of those times in upstate New York when, we get snow in October. And I'm in my apartment and I could barely get out of bed. And I don't have any heat because my landlord doesn't turn it on until Thanksgiving, right? But even though it's freezing and I'm really sick, and I'm like trying to get through to them, asking them please to turn on the heat. And I get a phone call from my workplace and they say, we can't hold your job for you any longer. You are, let us know when you can come back and we'll see what we can do for you. But you're not guaranteed a job. Again, another thing that you can't count on in life. And so that was kind of like the lowest point for me. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have my health. I don't have my job. I don't have anything anymore. What am I going to do? And I just decided I have to get well and I have to just, come back to presence. And it was at that point where I was recovering and I was feeling good enough to go out. and I went to a wellness fair. I don't really know what possessed me to do that, but it was something where I could walk around and it wasn't too, fatiguing. And I thought it would be interesting. And there was this little booth in at one point, and this was in a hotel, big hotel room. And there was a booth that said Reiki, and a woman was offering Reiki sessions. And she had just this, straight back chair. And she was doing not hands on, but she was placing her hands in the energy field. I really hadn't heard of Reiki much before then. And I was like, hmm, you know, I've been kind of walking around looking at what's going on here. Maybe I will try this. And when I did, I just sat in the chair and she said, yeah, she said, Reiki is this, Japanese system of stress reduction, relaxation. It's a healing method. And, I'm going to place my hands near you and I'm going to amplify the energy. And, hopefully you'll feel good at the end of it. It was maybe 10 minutes, right? And I felt so much in terms of just positive energy. I felt like the fatigue was kind of going away, like almost like I was being filled with energy, plugged in almost, right? And at the end of the session, like I said, it was about 10 minutes. She said to me, gee, she said, it feels to me like your energy is so low. It's almost like it's just been draining out of you. And I had not told her one thing about myself.
Mhm.
And I thought, wow, maybe there's something to this rather than injections and pills and all the kinds of things I was trying that wasn't helping. And so I decided to look into it a little bit more, receive some sessions. And that was my introduction to Reiki. And that kind of was that beginning part of where things have gone for me. Yeah.
You received Reiki healing from the lady, but for those in our audience who don't really know much about Reiki, so what is Reiki specifically?
Mhm. So Reiki is two things. Reiki is a phenomenon, which means spiritual energy or our spiritual essence. And it's within everything that's alive. It's within all of us, right? And then Reiki as a practice, sometimes we call it Reiki Ryoho or Reiki practice. It's an actual system where we are working with this life force energy, with this spiritual energy for bringing it into our lives in certain ways to create balance. And it's like a 5-element system. There's a whole
Mhm.
system around it. It's more than just hands-on healing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And what are the 5 systems?
So the 5 elements are the precepts, which
Okay.
are sometimes people think of them as, words to live by, like just for today, I will not be angry. Just for today, I will not worry. But in truth, they have more to do with the outcomes of Reiki practice. So as we are practicing the system of Reiki, we begin to let go of anger. We begin to let go of worry and all of these things. So the precepts are the first thing. And then there are meditation and breathing practices. There's hands-on healing. There are symbols and mantras. And then there's the attunement or empowerment process. So there's
Okay.
there's more than just hands-on healing to Reiki. It's a whole system.
Okay, so after you received this Reiki healing from this lady, and then what happened next?
Mhm. Well, she didn't live anywhere in my area, so I had to kind of look for a Reiki master to go to.
Mhm.
And so I did find someone and I started to receive Reiki sessions. And I received them, I believe it was probably once a week. And they really started to help me to come back home to myself, to feel healthier, to feel like that influx of energy was staying with me, really. Like it didn't feel like, oh, I was feeling it. And then after the session, it kind of dwindled. I
Mhm.
started to feel like my batteries were charging in a way and
Okay.
staying charged. And so I'm receiving these sessions and I'm starting to feel a little bit better, you know, over time. And my Reiki master said to me, you could learn how to practice Reiki yourself so that you could do your own hands-on healing sessions in between. And that would even help you to feel better more quickly. but you could also really take your healing into your own hands. And I was like, are you kidding me? This is something you can do yourself. I had no idea.
Right. Okay.
I thought, someone is doing something to me, someone is helping me, and I didn't feel empowered in the least, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't think that that was even a possibility. So I was a little skeptical. And she said, yeah, she said, I, teach Reiki also, and there are different levels of Reiki. So you can take level 1 training, which is that beginning training where you bring it into your own life and do, practice a system for self-care. And then there's level 2, where you learn how to practice with others and you learn how to do distant Reiki. Then there's level 3, which is the master level where you end up being able to pass it on and teach. And she said, if you want, take level 1. And so that's what I did. I took level 1 with her because I loved how she worked with me. And it was, it was a very simple thing. Simple, accessible, everyone can do it. And I was diligent in working with Reiki, and I would practice every single day. And I think that more than anything else made the difference for me. Not just the fact that I was receiving Reiki every day, but also the fact that I was empowered, right, to be able to do this for myself. Yeah, it was the greatest thing.
Wonderful. So after you obviously attain your master level, and then what happened next?
Yeah. So actually, after I attained my level 2, people were asking me, what is happening with you? You seem like you're really like feeling good, and like your energy is really good, and you're happy all the time, and you seem like you're really, you know, doing well. And I said, the only thing that's different is Reiki. Of course, they wanted to know what that was. And at level 2, you can practice with other people. You can share it with other people. And so that's what I started doing at level 2, sharing Reiki sessions with family and friends and things like that. However, family thought I must have joined a cult. They were afraid for me. They were like, what is this Reiki thing? It's like, that sounds crazy. What is it? Witchcraft? What is it? And I said, of course not. And I come from this Catholic family, right? I said, it's like prayer. It's really like prayer. It's like coming into, a church almost, right? And so they started to understand it, and they were able to accept that once I kind of put it into terms that they understood. But friends and things like that really started loving the Reiki sessions. That was the only thing that spurred me on to take my master level.
Right.
I
Okay.
wasn't planning on teaching. I was shy, shy, shy. Like I wouldn't even think about teaching to a group, talking to a group, anything like that. Reiki was the one thing that really helped me to come into finding my voice, for one thing, finding the truth of who I am authentically, right? And so, yeah, once I started to share Reiki with others, they said, how do I learn? And I said, well, yeah, I can send you to my teacher. And they said, no, but I want to learn from you. And I
Oh,
was like,
nice.
well, I don't know. Like, I can take the master level. So eventually, I took the master level, and eventually I did start teaching. But it was
Nice.
kind of like kicking and screaming. I was like, oh, no, I don't think this is right for me. I don't think who am I to think that I could become a Reiki master, right? I had imposter syndrome and all of that kind of thing. And again, Reiki was the thing that, working with the system every single day, helped me to just be present with what is, and not have all of that thinking about what does that really mean in the future, and
Mm-hmm.
work, terms and
Right.
concepts. They could kind of fall away. And I thought, no, this is just about sharing with people. It's about, offering them the benefits of what I receive too. There's nothing scary about that.
Right. So how would someone feel during a Reiki session?
Yeah, so I think that there's a variety of things that people feel, obviously, but people frequently tell me that they feel relaxed. It's working with your nervous system, right? And your nervous system can come into a state of peace and calm when you are quiet and the energy is activating within you. So it can really support you and feeling, it can help you to feel energized, right? If you're feeling a little bit, like I was at the time when I first started receiving, I was feeling, low energy, but it can also just help you feel relaxed. It basically is a regulatory thing, I think, more than anything else. So if you're feeling out of balance, maybe you're like really high wired, right? You're stressed out and you're like wired up. It helps you to come into relaxation. If you're kind of depressed or, imbalanced in that way, it helps you to come up into a more of a, right, helps you to come to balance. So wherever you are, it's going to help you to balance yourself out and come into more of equilibrium more than anything else. But people say specifically, that sometimes they see like colors, or they see motion behind their eyes, or they feel energy moving throughout their body. That happens because we are energetic beings and energy does move through us. So if you're amplifying healing energy within, things are going to start moving and changing. And so Reiki is all about change. It's about helping you to change in whatever ways that you need to come into balance. And also, it's more about releasing whatever you don't need rather than like something from the outside of you coming in and filling you up. That was my impression when I first started receiving it. I thought, oh, this must be something that this woman's doing, filling me up with something, filling me with energy. And so I thought, I'm, obligated to her because I need her to do that again because I'm not
Right.
holding that energy.
Okay.
Little did I know that it's not that at all, that it's really that we all have Reiki within us, right? And it's just amplifying that healing energy within and helping us to balance and to become our authentic self so we can hold that, right? So that we can
Right.
be embodied. Yeah.
Right. So you mentioned about, Reiki sessions. You went to that lady, so you had in-person sessions, right?
Mhm.
But now there's a lot of talk about distance Reiki. I'm a
Mhm.
distance Reiki practitioner myself.
Mhm.
So for those in the audience who don't understand what distance Reiki is, can you explain, and also can you explain how the distance part, how does that work? If two people are not in person and they're maybe countries apart, how do you send Reiki to somebody who's in another country?
Yeah. Well, I'm a distant Reiki person too now since COVID, right?
Right.
Of course, we were all, doing in person for the longest time. But since COVID, I'm teaching online, I'm practicing online, and distant Reiki can obviously be done without technology. It can be done over the phone, it can be done, on Zoom, however you want to do it. But the way that I think about it is this. We always talk about distant Reiki being I'm sending Reiki over time and space.
Mhm.
But I think it has more to do with the fact that we're remembering oneness. We are remembering our connection to the person. Not that we've met them before, because we might not have ever met them before, but we're remembering our inherent oneness and our inherent connection between beings, right? Reiki, I think, is all about that oneness and that understanding and remembering of our connection to all that is, right? And when we work at level 2 and above, we become attuned to energies that we have symbols that are representative of those energies. And one of them is the distant Reiki symbol.
Mhm.
And that symbol, I always call it the oneness symbol because, you know, it isn't necessarily I'm here and you're there, but, I couldn't even imagine maybe pre-COVID having a conversation like this with you and with people who are listening. And I feel very connected with everyone that's, going to listen to this. And
Right.
with you, I feel like I'm in the same room with you. And so, yeah, we really can do this very, very easily. And all of the people that I see for sessions that are remote, and I'm sure you can say the same thing, they feel something. right?
Yes.
They
Yes.
feel typically, and some of them have had Reiki sessions in person, and they feel very similar effects. And they say that at the end of the session. They're like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. And they also get to just kind of relax within their own space, which is even nicer because then you don't make them get off the Reiki table, go out
Right.
into the cold and drive
Yeah. Yeah.
home kind of thing,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, it is something that it's a legit thing. It's not a scam or anything like that. It's definitely something that when you're working within the system of Reiki, you start to have an understanding that we are all one and that there's no distance between us, really. So
Right.
we're just tuning in that way, and
Right.
you feel the deep connection.
I so resonate with that because, like you said, on an energetic level, we're all intricately connected. And also, it's about the power of intention, right?
Mm,
When the Reiki practitioner and the client comes together in a mutual intention for healing, that intention is amplified. So when you activate or maybe send
mhm.
Reiki energy to the client, I think it's instantaneous because the power of intention is what connects us.
Absolutely. I think we create this shared energy field
Right.
when we're intending that we're connecting. It becomes not just me and you, it becomes three, you, me, and the
That
energy.
energy field.
Hmm.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
beautiful.
So, okay, so you took Reiki level 1, right? And you started practicing Reiki on yourself. What about if somebody wants to practice Reiki on themselves, but they don't have Reiki level 1 yet? Is that
Mhm.
possible?
It is possible for sure. Um, and, you know, the way that understand this is that because we all have Reiki, right? Because it's the phenomenon of Reiki is within us. We can practice hands-on healing for self-care. There are lots of traditions that don't necessarily call it Reiki, but they're doing energy balancing and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I think that it's really valuable to have a teacher and to have your attunement, your initiation or empowerment, because that can really support you in understanding what you're doing, for one thing, putting like a framework around it and having someone bring you through the steps. I think that can really, really be supportive of your practice. And, I see a lot of times people will contact me and they'll say, oh, I watch a YouTube video or I read a book or something like that. I even know what the symbols are. Can you just give me a certificate saying that I'm a Reiki master now? And I say, of course not. That's not really the way that it works.
Right,
You can do whatever you want to do, but you can't really call yourself a Reiki master unless you've really gone through the process. And
right.
the process that the teacher is going to support you in is all of the energetic embodiment and those changes that need to happen through you so that you can hold those higher levels of energy, so that you can
Mm-hmm.
clear all the things that you no longer need, and so that you can start to embody the practices. And when you do, that's when you're able to amplify the energy. You're able to support other people's healing, right? But yeah, for self care and things like that, you know, I have clients who are terminally ill, and I, go through and do their sessions, on Zoom and things like that. And I suggest to them, place your hands on your heart, place your hands on your body. Can you feel the positive healing energy? And they do. But I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't say that they're practitioners, right?
Right.
They're, understanding, the level of energy and self-care that they can do. But if they're feeling good enough, I invite them to come to a level 1 class, that type of
Mm.
thing.
All right. Thank you. I want to move on to attunement now because you mentioned it a couple times. I've seen recently where there's like online Reiki classes, and I know the attunements are an important part of a Reiki class. However, I'm seeing like right now, online classes that don't include attunements. So I would like to ask for you to explain what attunements are and why is it so important for the Reiki student?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the attunement process is different in different styles of Reiki too, but it is an important part of the process. In traditional Japanese Reiki, you are receiving Reiju, which is their attunement process, every single time you meet with your master.
Okay.
And you should be doing that regularly, right? And they just keep coming together for Reiju over and over and over again. And so even from the very beginning with Mikao Usui, the founder of Usui Reiki, he basically, was letting people know this is a spiritual blessing. This is a remembering process that you are a spiritual being. And it helps to amplify, your spiritual life force energy. And so, I'm trained in different styles of Reiki. In Gendai Reiki, we do a Reiju process similar to more traditional Japanese Reiki. In Western Reiki, like Takata-based Reiki, you'll have like 4 different attunements. In Usui Holy Fire Reiki, we are working online for the most part. We can do in person and online, but for the online, you're doing it in person online, kind of live online, I guess is how we call it. And even if we do them in person, we no longer do physical attunements. And so typically it was physical attunements. The Reiju process would be placing hands on top of the person's head, helping to activate that energy and an understanding that this is a sacred experience, that it's a remembering process in terms of you remembering your spiritual essence. But in Usui Holy Fire Reiki, which is what I practice and teach right now, we no longer do physical attunements. And I have to tell you, when I first learned that back in 2015, I was a little skeptical, thinking, I don't know if this is going to work. I have this ritual, I have this way of doing the physical attunements. And of course, it has to be in person. I have to touch the person's hands and I have to touch above their head and things like that. And in Usui Holy Fire Reiki, I'm surprised. I was surprised. I am no longer surprised, but it's interesting how you can do this process where actually it feels like everyone is receiving exactly what they need. And myself as a Reiki master, I am no longer needing to bring the energy through me and then translate it to to the student.
Right.
And in certain ways, that gives them higher level energy because it doesn't have to go through something physical in order to get to them.
Yeah, it's not diluted.
It's not diluted. It's not
Right.
downgraded. It's not, any of those things. So yeah, there are many different ways to practice attunements, but I do think it's really important to receive that from a teacher. I think that, like you're talking about, if someone just learns about Reiki in an online class, for me, that's not enough to call them a practitioner to receive a certificate, other than a certificate that you learned about Reiki, not that you're a practitioner.
Right.
And then maybe go to, even if it's an online class or an in-person class, whatever it is, then to receive that initiation and to be nurtured along by that teacher, be able to ask the questions, be able to practice with them and all of that in order to really embody it rather than just hand someone a piece of paper.
Right.
Say, yeah, you're good.
Yeah, I agree. You mentioned Gendai Reiki, and right now you're teaching Usui Holy Fire Reiki. So what's the difference between Gendai and Usui Holy Fire?
Yeah, so there's a little bit of a difference. Gendai Reiki is a little bit more based on traditional Japanese Reiki. The man who created that type of Reiki is someone his name is Hiroshi Doi, and he is part of the Usui Reiki Ryoho Gakkai in Japan. And so he cannot teach exactly what they practice because it's a hermetic society. It's insulated. They don't allow others, to be just coming in or,
Right.
sending out what they do. However, they're allowing him to create what he calls a modern method of traditional Japanese Reiki.
Okay.
And so I learned Gendai Reiki, and they do 4 levels. Level 1 is Shoden, level 2 is Okuden, level 3 is Shinpiden, and level 4 is Gokui Kaiden, which is master, or you become a sensei at that point. And that is all in person. They don't do anything online, they
Wow.
don't do anything remotely. And it's a beautiful practice. And there's a lot of Reiju in it, lots and lots of Reiju, spiritual blessing in person. And it's very much about connecting with community and offering to others and coming together in community to practice together. And then if you talk about Usui Holy Fire Reiki, that's really a newer form of Reiki. It came out in about 2014 through the International Center for Reiki Training with William Rand. And he is understanding that it is really kind of the evolution of Reiki. He talks about Usui understanding that Reiki will be evolving through us. As we continue to work with it, it will evolve through us into different facets, right? And how he talked to Hayashi when Hayashi took over for him and said, I want you to continue to evolve Reiki. I want you to continue to evolve the practices and things like that. And so Usui Holy Fire Reiki is still the lineage of Usui, but the practices are a little bit different, like especially the attunement practice. So like we were saying, level 1 and level 2 and the ART portion do placements. And those are guided meditations where the Reiki master is not touching you or guiding. And we're holding the space for each person to be attuned individually, directly.
Right.
And then for the master level, we receive ignitions, and it's a series of 4 ignitions. And then that really is to ignite the flame of Reiki within the master so that then you can pass that on to others, to the students that you teach. Again, it's a beautiful practice. It does allow us very simply to practice online, to, not having to stop our practice because COVID, because, and for me, I've been able to really connect with so many more people and help make Reiki much more accessible. Whereas people would sometimes travel for like hours to get to me for my classes and have to then stay overnight and things like that.
Right.
I'm really about having it be more accessible to people. So still definitely, live online. Definitely would never teach,
Like an online
or
class.
just an online class without any support and things like that. But yeah,
What are some misconceptions about Reiki that you would like to clarify today for the audience benefit?
man, there are so many, aren't there?
Yeah,
Where
no.
will I start?
Maybe the top 3. Let's go the top 3.
Top 3. Yeah. Well, I think that for so many people, they think that Reiki is hands-on healing, right? They think that Reiki is energy, and that you're placing your hands on yourself or another person, and it's a physical healing method. I think that so many people, there's that misconception. They are not aware that it is really working with you at all levels, right? That it's physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, your entire being, right? And that it isn't like, even when someone comes to a Reiki session with me and I ask them, why are you coming and things like that, they'll always say something like something physical, like, oh, I have a little bit of pain, or I have like this or that going on. Reiki can really, really be supportive of, emotional balance, helping you to, clear your thoughts and gain clarity and have more positive thinking and to connect spiritually and things like that. And so it really can help you on all levels, and that it's a system. It's not just the hands-on healing part. There's so much more to it. Like, for example, I always practice the entire system of Reiki. And for me, that has made the biggest difference in my life, to know that, to be able to go beyond just the hands-on healing part, to work with the whole system is more of a depth practice. It's more about, embodying it yourself, so that even if you never do a session for someone else, even if you never teach a class, you are influencing in a positive way everyone that you come in contact with, because you're the embodiment of that practice.
Right. Very nice. I like that. So now I want to shift to your business. You are a Reiki master, and I want to call you a Reiki influencer. So can you share with us what services, programs, products that you offer to the collective through your business?
Oh, sure. Well, I definitely do sessions. I offer sessions on Zoom or on the phone or off technology, however people want to do that. I also do a lot of mentoring, especially loving helping Reiki practitioners become more professional in what they do, because so many people want to open a business and help other people. And, with Reiki training, we don't learn that part of it. And so most of
Yeah.
us are not business people. And I wasn't when I first started.
Right.
So I felt like I was kind of lost when I was first wanting to help people and not knowing how to do that. So learning all of that stuff for myself, I really love helping Reiki practitioners like kind of start their business, improve their business, grow their business, and things like that. And I do have some online like mini courses and things like that, but I do have a couple of things. Like, for example, I created Reiki journals that are like supportive for people going through their practice, so that they can document their, their growth and their insights, and all, everything that they do within the system of Reiki. And also just kind of recently wrote a book on Amazon about how to grow your Reiki business. And I have a program that I just started that's helping mentoring Reiki practitioners in starting or growing their business. And I just finished the first kind of like 6 weeks of that. And that's been really, really fun to see how people are kind of just moving through their barriers, and like we wondered, like, oh my gosh, who am I to do this? But really just using Reiki to support us and being able to embody it and move into that, helping get their healing work out into the world. So I'm loving doing all of that.
Wonderful. What trends are you seeing right now for, people that you're mentoring, who are starting Reiki businesses and not really making it work because they don't understand the process?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that definitely what I see is that everybody's heart is in the right place, that they're wanting to come from, just this place of generosity, that Reiki has, helped them so much, and they want to offer to others. And then they bump up against money. They bump up against this money issue where they're like, they're stopped in their tracks. They're like, oh my gosh, how can I ask for payment? How can I put a price on this? And I think a lot of it is they feel really funny about charging for energy, because energy should be free, and we should be helping others and not really be. A lot of people have this idea that money is the root of all evil. So it's really hard to like ask for money, to take money, or even have like pricing and things like that. So that's the hardest part, I think, for people. And just to help them understand that money is really energy. Money is really a symbol for energy. And so we work kind of through that in my mentoring classes and my individual sessions and things like that. And to help people to just really understand that when you send out Reiki into the world and you're doing sessions and things like that, and someone symbolically gives you energy by giving you some money, it doesn't have to be a huge amount that you're charging, but
Right.
whatever it is coming back. So supporting you to do more of that, just supporting you to give out more positive energy in the world. And then people can start to soften around that a little bit more, and realize that they're not, selling out, and they're not,
Right.
becoming mercenary.
Yeah, it's a symbiotic relationship, right? Because the client has a choice to, to go for a Reiki session. So the client is making a choice to go for a Reiki session. And you, as a practitioner, you are spending your time,
Yeah.
Giving the client a healing. And so I think it's like an exchange, like what you see money is energy. So it's an energy exchange via, money, via funds, right?
Absolutely. And Mikao Usui, the first thing that he did once he had Reiki was he started to ask for an exchange. And one of the teachings, his early teachings, was that when he would treat people, if they did not give something back, if they didn't exchange for it, and it didn't have to be money, but whatever it was, when they did not make the exchange, they didn't really benefit very much from it. And they would come back and they would be in the same situation that they were in before. But the ones that invested in their own healing, they did better. And so he was
Right.
teaching us with a little parable from the beginning that yes, we need to have that energetic exchange, whatever
Right.
that is. Yeah. And that works better because you're benefiting your client by allowing them to give you something to say that they're valuing it. They're valuing their own healing.
Right. Good point. Okay, I want to bring up your special gift for the audience. Can you share more about your special gift?
Absolutely. So I created a little guided Reiki session that everyone can do. So you just can listen to it. And it's really a 5-element Reiki session. And I'm really all about connecting with the natural world and feeling of oneness with all of nature. And so I'm just going to, we'll drop the link for that somewhere around this video. But it is just this beautiful 5-element guided Reiki session to help you deepen your connection with the natural world. And so, yeah, it's for everybody.
Thank you for your kind gift.
Yeah.
And where can people find you online, Mary?
So you can go to maryriposo.com or infinitelightcenter.com. And then, of course, I'm on Facebook under my name, LinkedIn. I have a YouTube channel, Mary Riposo TV. And then you can go to my Amazon author page too to look at my Reiki journals and my Reiki book just under my name.
Right, I'll put all that in the show notes. So we have a couple minutes left, and I have my signature closing question that I ask all my guests. Are you ready?
Okay.
Okay, this is my question. What is your closing message for humanity to help in our collective healing and empowerment?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I think the best thing I could say is I would borrow the words of Mikao Usui, the founder of Usui Reiki. Um, his message was just for today, anger not, worry not, be grateful, be true to your way and your being, and be kind. And for me, those are the words that I live by. I try to live by as much as possible. Being in the present moment, releasing anger, releasing worry, being grateful, not just for blessings and things that you think are positive, but being grateful for everything, just for being grateful for being here and being alive in this present moment, being kind to myself and to others, and being true to my way and my being, like really allowing my authentic self to come through and being okay with that, like knowing what's mine to do and then releasing whatever is not and not having to, overdo it and things like that. There's so many levels to his words. And I know that there's a lot of times they're really misinterpreted and things like that because we're going from Japanese to English and all of that. But I really think that, just for today, anger not, worry not, be grateful, be true to your way and your being, and be kind. It's as simple as that. And I think that if everyone could really have those words and start like leaning into that, I think it would be beautiful.
Yes, I so resonate with that. Thank you, Mary, for being here and for sharing your knowledge and wisdom with all of us. And I'm so grateful to have you here today. And thank you for all you do.
Thank you. Beautiful.
And for everybody who's watching and listening, thank you for your time. And until next time, bye for now.